Hey everyone, Amascut here with a brand new episode of Thoughts On. Today I'm going to be talking about the release of Shattered Worlds that occurred on Monday. Today is the 3rd, so I'm a little bit behind, but I've had a pretty busy couple days. So, yeah, let's talk Shattered Worlds. This is going to be a pretty quick and gritty episode since I pretty much delved into all of the interesting mechanics in my thoughts on the behind the scenes, which you can see clicking a link down in the description. I'll make sure that shows up there. And, yeah, let's get going. So, Shattered Worlds is a members-only combat and Slayer-based minigame, mostly revolving around diving through portals into randomly generated worlds and killing everything inside, or most of everything inside, I guess. Really, generally, the only objective is to clear 75% of the world. I guess, and kind of unfortunately, while I enjoy this minigame and I find it very relaxing, like much of the content this year, all I can really say about it is it's a nice start. While, like I said, I enjoy the content that I'm playing, and I think for the most part it's a pretty enjoyable experience, it, like much of the content this year, feels like it's just the beginning of what this needs to be. Much like the achievement system, even the Penguin Quest that didn't quite feel like it was finished, this piece of content has a lot of interesting ideas and not enough execution. I'm trying to find some better ways to put it. So I'm actually gonna steal a quote from my co-clan leader Walter's Con here, and he says, "Shattered Worlds is an oddly mundane experience. What is made out to be a thrilling journey through the abyss in order to maintain balance and protect Gielinor from a potential threat is instead one of the most generic combat updates in recent history." And unfortunately, I do kind of agree with him. I think the general concept is awesome. I really do enjoy hopping through, 5 worlds at a time and slaughtering everything in sight and then running to the exit and claiming my rewards. But there aren't really rewards right now. And even just doing those 5 worlds gets repetitive by the end of a 20-minute, run, and I'm not even being very efficient, as you'll see in the gameplay footage playing in the background, which, by the way, finally found a program that records gameplay footage on my laptop, so from here on out, no more awkward little, screen caps unless, they're important and necessary to what's going on, and you'll actually get gameplay footage, so enjoy my kind of bad playing gameplay footage as I'm slowly making my way through some of the low-tier levels. Anyway, so some of my problems right off the bat are simply that it is extremely repetitive. You play through 5 worlds, you get a reward chest, you can restock, and then you go continue again. You play through 5 worlds, repeat, 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 repeat. There's nothing to really break up that monotony. Even the couple of mutators that you get, while they're fun, like as you'll see in this gameplay footage, the teleport rifts one is active, and I actually find that one really interesting, and it added a lot of kind of funny movement-based gameplay. Especially as later on you'll see as I was running right towards the exit of one of the portals, and suddenly a rift pops up right in front of me, teleporting me ages back. It was annoying, but at the same time it was, funny, and it was something different. That's something that Shattered Worlds is mostly missing right now. You're going to see such a wide variety of mobs in really beautiful environments. Like, seriously, I know a lot of these are recycled, but they are gorgeous. These are gorgeous environments with gorgeous skyboxes and really good random generation, which apparently took a very long time to develop. But as I said, unfortunately, there's not a lot to break this stuff up. The monsters don't really do anything special. Like, I ran into Ripper Demons at one point, and got all excited. I'm like, oh, I can, kill some Ripper Demons. Maybe they'll have some mechanics, maybe not their insta-kill, but like, their slashy thing or their teleport and leap. Maybe it'll up my Ripper count, but it did none of those things. It was pretty unfortunate, which was a shame. The other problem is that the mutators go away after 5 worlds anyway, so it's not like you're going to be piling on these mutators as gameplay gets more and more frantic and complex. No, you just, clear a couple mutators, move on to the next world. There's not really any point. Also, streaking. The only thing doing streaks adds is a chance to get the Abyssal Hound pet as a rare drop from the chest, which is unfortunate. Yeah. There's only a couple random events too, which is really, really disappointing. There's one with a chest where you run into a chest, you activate it, monsters spawn, you kill as many of them as possible, and you get anima based on how many mobs you killed. There's a fountain surrounded by ghosts, and you try to kill as many ghosts as you can, which should be about 8. There's a Gobi that if you slaughter the poor innocent beast, it gives you a ton of anima. And then there's a shield where an ancient relic can be found, and you can sacrifice it to an altar of boosted anima, an altar of restoration, or an altar of instant anima. One boosts your anima gain, one heals you up, and one just gives you an instant chunk of anima. But, yeah. Like I said, very unfortunately, though, there's just not a lot to break things up. And while the mutators are interesting, and they add some interesting gameplay here and there, for the majority of the time, they're not really all that crazy, because, like I said, they go away. There's no bosses, there's no special mechanics, it's just run through and kill stuff. And I was hoping that wasn't the case, but it is. There's a couple changes coming to the minigame. Not sure if it's tomorrow or like next patch or something, but changes are coming. But it's nothing really all that crazy. They are aware that everybody believes that the anima gain is not high enough, and I agree it's not high enough. But it doesn't appear like there's going to be much changes about that. But what they are doing is lowering the defense level and armor of all monsters, and treating all monsters as though they're weak to the combat style you're using. So this will be nice to help you go to higher and higher and higher and higher worlds. But it doesn't change the fact that once you've done a world for the first time, you're not going to get that huge anima chunk anymore. And while you can streak at these higher levels, it still doesn't change the fact that anima gain is fairly low. These rewards, even just the huge Slayer lamp, costs, what, 4 million, I believe? Yeah, 4 million anima. So just getting a sigil at the most efficient clear time, which is about 4 million anima an hour, that's 10, 11, almost 12 hours, and the abilities take forever too. And while I understand these are supposed to be, rewards you work your way towards, there's not really anything, rewarding on the way up there. There's no drops from these monsters. The anima you earn, you gotta save up if you want these things. There's not smaller rewards in like the hundreds of thousands, except for, well, the Slayer contract. Like, there's just not a lot there. So it makes it feel more like I'm slowly grinding my way towards something. But until then, not really earning anything. The combat XP isn't all that great at lower levels. There's just not a lot going on, reward-wise. And while this is supposed to be a Slayer-based minigame, there's not a lot of Slayer-based combat going on, except for, here's waves of enemies, slaughter them. I'm not getting Slayer XP from this. I'm not... You know what I mean. So I feel like a couple things really need to be changed beyond just the couple basic things that were addressed between the, monsters being too difficult and, causing some trouble with the defense of monsters. I think the biggest thing is there needs to be boss levels. I don't care if it's rehashes of quest bosses. I don't care if it's weakened versions of existing bosses. If I drop into a world and there's a Raxor waiting for me with even just 3 of his abilities, that's a lot more cool than another world with 600 monsters I gotta slaughter. If I have to fight Phase 2 Telos, just Phase 2, Telos is standing there in a corrupted-looking form, and he uses just his Phase 2 abilities. I'm so down for that. Fight off the 3 Dagannoth kings. The Queen Black Dragon emerges from over the side of one of the islands. That would be awesome. Drop 2 quest bosses in there. They've got such a wide variety of bosses that they can and should use in this, that it's almost disappointing that they don't. It's also disappointing that monsters don't use their normal abilities. While some would be absurd, like imagine running into one of the Ripper demons in here, but there's 6 of them on you. You would die. But in a boss level, what if instead of a boss, there's a couple Slayer monsters that are stronger than usual? They've got a lot of options there. Another thing I think is that we need monsters that drop items. I don't need them to drop on the ground, But it would be really cool if when I finished a set of 5 worlds and I opened my chest, these monsters dropped items too, some gold, some Slayer items if they were Slayer monsters, uh, something, something to reward me for my time beyond just the anima gain. I think that would really add a lot of nice things. Another thing I noticed, you don't get any Thaler from this. I think some Thaler with this would be really nice, especially if they were smart and capped the amount of Thaler you could get per world. So going in and getting a Thaler for spending a bit of time in there would be really great. I would really enjoy that. It would be nice because it's a mini game. Additionally, alongside Shattered Worlds, as I mentioned earlier, my co-clan leader, Walters Kong, wrote up a big bunch of feedback, and he's a lot more critical on it than I am, I think, because I'm sitting here like, well, there's a lot of improvements they could make, yada yada. But he points out a lot of the same things I am. Issues with the monsters being really boring, how there's not really any special attacks going on, there's not really anything interesting going on. This is not something that I could see myself going and recording, 6 hours of footage for, playing this for hours and hours on end. This is something I do like a 20-minute run of every couple of days and kind of enjoy. And he's hit that very much on the head. And it feels like, basic wave-based content from another game. So I'm going to read another clip from Walter's feedback. I'm going to make sure all of this is in the comments, or in the description box, so you all can see that. But he says, it is worth noting that virtually everything in Shattered Worlds seems very familiar to many gamers. The concept of a wave-based system isn't at all new, but with the knowledge of it being intended to be streamed, it seems obvious which was their biggest inspiration. There is no shame in it being inspired, after all, but if you fall short for one reason or another, everyone will judge your content harsher. Diablo 3 added an adventure mode a few years back that was quite popular with players. One of the two main components of adventure mode was the concept of Nephilim Rifts. In Nephilim Rifts, you go into an area with a tile set based on the main game, and beat a bunch of enemies in order to fill a bar. Upon doing so, you spawn a boss, which you have to defeat. There are also treasure goblins randomly throughout the game, which can be defeated for large rewards, and challenges within the rifts that you can complete for bonuses. There's even a cool tower thing, which gives benefits to the player for a short time. And if any of this seems familiar at all, it's because Shattered Worlds is a blatant copy of Nephilim Rifts. The difference is that Shattered Worlds was done badly, while Rifts give you a small chance to gain game-changing rewards that actually matter. Shattered Worlds, on the other hand, gives you a chance to get a small amount of anima to help with 120 Slayer. While Rifts have unique enemies that have modifiers that make each experience different than the last, Worlds have enemies that are all basically the same. While Rifts have about a dozen bosses that force you to react differently, Worlds has one boss that didn't even make it into the final version. While Rifts have towers that have to be planned out to gain the greatest effects from temporary effects, Worlds have mutators that either have a little effect or end your run. While Rifts have treasure goblins, which attempt to escape by opening portals and have a chance for valuable items, Worlds have gobies, which give a tiny bit of anima and a couple other randoms, and don't really do much of anything. While Rifts are the vast majority of Diablo 3 streams due to their every Rift is different gameplay, Worlds won't be streamed because they're all basically identical. This does hit it very well on the head. There's not a lot of unique gameplay going on. There's not a lot of exciting, I gotta plan around this moments going on. And, like I said, I think that is my biggest problem with Shattered Worlds. There's no bosses, there's no special fights. You see that one enemy, and it's functionally identical to the giant shadow lurking over you. It doesn't change based on what you're doing, it's just there, and it exists, and you have to kill it. Another fairly major problem I have with this is that the narrative is nearly non-existent. You speak to the one dude about the Abyssal Knights. He gives you a tiny bit of backstory that somehow the Void and Temple Knights decided to group up. There's a witch opening rifts. The rifts are, because everybody's teleporting, the rifts are pulling in bits of anima and forming it into something else, like a mockery of real life. And that's it. Originally, apparently, there was supposed to be the witch that you would actually hunt down, but due to the dev time going way outside of what they were planning originally, this got canceled. And, we don't have any bosses. We don't have any real narrative for going through these. We just go through them, take them under control, and that's it. This is incredibly disappointing to someone like me, a lore-based player who was really looking forward to some interesting narrative related to the Abyss with this. I think only having, one really NPC that offers any sort of lore is kind of a travesty for something that seems this high impact, you know? Having two major knight groups team up to battle off the Abyss that sounds huge, right? But there's no pomp to it. There's nothing exciting or epic about that because they weren't given the narrative treatment they deserved, which is really unfortunate. And it's something I hope to see improved with future patches, but I'm not sure they're going to have the time to or the development, scope to. Obviously, this is something I really hope to see taken on in tap. Like I said at the very start, this is something I think is a really great concept that does not have the execution to back it up. So I'm really hoping to see more come out of this. I'm hoping to see more interesting concepts come from this, but right now I don't think it has the exciting gameplay to back it up, which, like I said, is very unfortunate. Before I go, I'm going to go ahead and talk about how these rewards end up looking balance-wise. So, as I mentioned, the anima gains are not all that high, which is really unfortunate to me. And as such, a lot of these rewards come off looking a little overpriced. The huge Slayer XP lamp looks fine in price-wise since top-tier players can pull about one of these an hour. And since that adds, a good bit of XP, nice, great. But the 3 sigils are very expensive. They start with charges, and it costs 45,000 anima per charge. And because these effects are so small, those charges do come across seeming kind of expensive. I do see these being handy, though, and I'm very interested in getting my hands, especially on the Sigil of Slaying one. The abilities are very powerful, though. These deserve this high cost, even if it seems a bit painful to be grinding that long for a single ability. They are very, very, very good. These are something I'm willing to work for, especially Salt the Wound, because these are nice abilities. I'm a big fan of these. Great work. The Abyssal Knight's armor cosmetic looks very nice. Great. Good for you. And finally, getting all of the Treasure Hunter masks in-game is a very nice benefit. I'm glad they did that. I own all of them already, so as I mentioned in the BTS, this isn't super impactful for me, but for the general everyday player, this is going to be great. The pets look very nice, but are disgustingly expensive. These things are going to be not purchased very often, I think. I don't really know who would want to spend 175,700,000 anima for the tier 9 pet unless they were going for, the prestige of it. Because, on that alone, what is that? That's, Let me pop some math real quick. That's quite a number of hours. That's just gonna take a very, very long time to get together. Like if you're getting 4 million anima every hour, 4 million, that takes almost 44 hours just to get the top tier pet. And if you think about it, if it's 4 million anima for every single huge Slayer lamp, that's also a sacrifice of probably, let's see, if I'm correct about these, they should give about 67k per lamp. I'm actually uncertain if I'm right about that. But that's generally what it is for a large lamp, or a huge lamp, if I remember correctly. But that's 67,000. That's almost 3 million Slayer XP just to drop on an anima pet, especially with the cost and the amount of hours that go into it. That does seem a little much, to be honest. And again, I understand why these are here. These are prestige things, but boy, that's a lot of hours to be put into a single pet. Anyway, that's really all I gotta say on Shattered Worlds. I'm really hoping to see some more mutators added in, but also like 40 more random events, bosses, and some proper narrative. Those sorts of things will go a long way in making this, a very interesting and impactful minigame. Additionally, I would very much like to see some more rewards that can be purchased in the long term instead of having mostly, one-time purchases and some charge-based stuff. I think that'll add a lot. Anyway, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, and I'd love to hear your comments. If you want to hear more like this, please pop that subscribe button. And thanks for listening. I've been Amascut, and hope you have a good one.